Welcome to the Weekly Fix. My name is Jacob, and joining me, as always, is my good friend Zane. And if you guys could tell, my computer is working for the time being, so hopefully the audio is a little bit better this week. But nonetheless, we still do have another great episode, whether the audio is better or not. We're going to be talking about this last episode of Invincible that we got that I thought was absolutely amazing. We're going to do a little catching up on the Bad Batch because I think that show has been phenomenal. I'm really excited to get Zane's thoughts on it. But before we get into any of that stuff, Zane, how are you doing this week?
Man, I'm doing great. Oh man, just a good start to the week. Had an awesome weekend. Got to go watch Dune for a second time. So that was amazing. Great Saturday, good Sunday. Church was awesome. So just overall, completely and totally blessed and highly favored. What about you?
We have had a good week, but I will say this household was struck with a little bit of sickness this week. Danielle has not been feeling good. She actually stayed home from work today, and she's continuing to not feel good. But other than that, it has been a good week. Now, one thing before we get into the Invincible and the Bad Batch, and we're actually going to break down a little bit of that Acolyte trailer that we saw, we have a little bit of extracurricular activity that I'd love to hear about because you have recently finished Baldur's Gate, and I just want to hear your full recap on the game. I know you've already started another playthrough, but where does this rank in like your top games all time? I know you're already playing it again, so surely it's got to be pretty high up there. But what did you just overall think about the whole experience?
So this is the first time I've actually got to play an entire CRPG that like I felt like it was really well done. It's turn-based, so that's different. But I'm a big board game fanatic. So I love that style of game. And being able to play that with an amazing story, incredible voice acting, great music dialogue, and completely satisfying ending for me. It was absolutely incredible. Now I will say, this game could be like pretty terrible. I think if you make bad choices, if you're okay with certain things that I'm not okay with. So the game does give you some freedom. So if just warning out there, if you don't want any access to anything like that, there is some rough stuff in the game that you just need to avoid. But the good thing is it's all avoidable. You don't have to see any of it. It's completely choice based. So if you make good choices, you don't have to worry about it. But honestly, for me, incredible. Probably a 9.5 out of 10 for me, with that
Okay.
0.5 being a little too heavy on the wanting the romance. They push it a little too much. Like if you're just nice to somebody, it's like, oh hey, would you like this option to sleep with me? And so I don't personally like that option. So that's probably the biggest hindrance to the game from my point of view. But the storylines are awesome. The characters are incredible. The game it feels great. And it's amazing how no matter what you choose, it doesn't drive you to a specific endpoint. A lot of games, it seems like you have like freedom of choice, but at the end of the conversation, you're still going to be at the same spot. That's not the case with this game. The amount of people that you can fight, people you can befriend, completely different paths that you can take in this game is really, really cool, really, really fun. So I personally think it's awesome. I don't know if it's my favorite game of all time, but it's definitely my favorite game that I've played since I've become an adult, for sure.
Would you maybe go ahead and, without thinking too much, because I'm sure it does take some time to think through every video game you've ever played, would you say maybe it's top 5?
It's definitely top 5. It's up there with top 5.
Awesome. Well, as far as my gaming has gone, my computer is still not running at 100%, so I haven't really got to do a whole lot. I haven't finished my February game, which was Helldivers 2. I'm still lacking the same 2 trophies that I've been lacking for basically the entirety of March, because I just haven't got to play. But I do know my next game, I think I'm going to go ahead and play Starfield. I've kind of decided after I finish up the Helldivers thing, I'd like to play a Bethesda game because I've actually never played one. And I know there's a lot better Bethesda games out there than Starfield. Starfield was kind of like, the ugly stepchild of the Bethesda series. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot because I think, it'd be fun just to see what it is all about. And I think for me, having Game Pass, it being on Game Pass and being so easily accessible, I think that'll be my next one. However, enough of the game talk. We had another absolutely fantastic episode of Invincible. And literally after this episode was over, my wife was sitting on the couch with me as I was watching it, and it ended. And I looked at her and I just said, I love this show. And I feel like this second half of this season has just been top notch. And of course, I still have the sour taste in my mouth of they did the mid-season thing. I hated that mid-season stoppage. Did not like it at all. But they definitely have their teeth right back in me. And this episode was just continuing the amazing storylines that we have gotten. A lot of really cool things were finally starting to be revealed to us, which I'm really excited about. But Zane, what did you think of this second episode of season 2.5?
Uh, you killed it. I love the show. It's awesome. They're taking chances. They are making some things just absolutely crazy. When it opens up and he pulls the trigger on Rex, I was like, oh my goodness, they did it.
Yep.
I was like, whoa. Kind of just setting the absolute scene there. I was talking to one of my friends, and it is an episode where if you don't like the Amber Mark relationship, which I know you don't, it probably wasn't your favorite. However, I do enjoy that, and I think they're handling that well, and I think they are going to push that relationship to a close pretty soon, which is pretty cool. I do have to say, I called it on Mark's brother being able to talk by the end of the season. He's starting
to get some words going.
He's already talking, not in full sentences, but talking nonetheless. Gave him a name. We're seeing the Donald stuff come to fruition. Yep. Rick is back and clearly is struggling. I think we're going to see some Rick Donald dynamic coming up in the future, which is going to be cool because they're both definitely dealing with the exoskeleton, I died, but now I'm alive kind of thing. Oh man. What an incredible episode.
Well, and the thing with Rick is he hasn't quite understood that he is basically a robot yet. He's going to get to that point, but I think they're kind of hinting. You think he does know?
I think he knows. Because he helped fight during that episode. Like he was present of mind.
That's true. He definitely could, but he obviously he's not telling William or anything like that. So I think that's going to be kind of a big thing that comes out. But like you said, started off the episode really exciting. I guess we can never, ever doubt our man Rex again because, man, what an awesome start to the episode because he just went absolutely berserk.
AWOL.
Yeah, on the Lizard League leader. I mean, he got right back up and he picks, oh man, such a cool scene using his, bitten off hand, kind of just as a weapon in and of itself with the bone sticking out. Super, super cool scene. Like you said, we're starting to get a little bit more with, we go ahead and call him Oliver, as that is what his name has been deemed now. Really interested to see how that story goes. But like you said, lots of cool things going on. We obviously got to see, I always forget her name. Is it Shrink Ray? Is that her name?
Yeah, I think it's Shrinking Ray.
Shrinking Ray. She somehow managed to live. So she crawled up out of there.
Did she?
Well, they made she still was hanging on,
Yeah.
So she's still there. She hasn't fully called it quits. Which was a little bit of a sour thing for me because I talked about so much how I liked that they did just commit to them. But Duplicate definitely is, a thing in the past now. If they bring her back, I'm going to have an even more sour taste. But I really do think that she actually is,
I think she's gone as well.
Really interesting dynamic we're getting to see with Immortal. I know they've kind of hinted at them kind of being a couple, but I really didn't think that they showed it being as big as a couple as, he led it on to believe during this episode. So what did you think about his new dynamic of kind of being depressed that now that she's gone?
I think that's actually super deep, and is a little bit better of a relationship and character depth than I expected from him because she's really the only person that he's met that has even done half of what he has done, and she's done it more. Every time she dies, she actually dies. Like, yeah, when a clone of her dies, she dies. And so, like, I know he talked about it. I can't remember what episode he did, but how that connection was pretty deep for him. And we draw the people that are most like us. That's the people we kind of want relationships with, that are in the same status. Celebrities date celebrities, and if you're not a celebrity, it really doesn't work out because you can't relate.
Yeah.
And so this is really kind of that. It's, hey, I'm immortal, you're immortal, and then dealing with her death. That's got to be pretty hard on him, and I think they're doing it pretty well, and also kind of gets him out of this scene so that we are going to see Invincible take a more leadership role in the Guardians, even though I think Immortal was stepping down pretty good for him. It really had no issues with him taking that front seat, but he's definitely messed up right now. He's in no place to lead or to be the stable structure that the Guardians need.
Well, it is bittersweet, too, because I thought Duplicate actually was a really cool character. I really liked her ability. I thought that was a really cool ability to be able to duplicate yourself and, use him and, control what they're doing along with you. That's a really cool ability. But it was a very pleasant surprise to start to get some more character depth for Immortal, because ever since he kind of came back to life, it kind of just felt like he was a drone, almost. All he wanted to do was just complete mission, do whatever needs to get done to complete the mission. This is giving him a lot more character depth now, to where he's actually kind of thinking about what's happening. He's caring more for his squad rather than, you have to just do this. We kind of saw that with Robot, him kind of saying, hey, you need to be careful with Monster Girl, because every time she uses this ability, she gets younger. And he's like, I don't care.
Right.
We need to train. I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a turning point for him, where he's going to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe I do need to start taking care of my crew a little bit better than I have previously. So I am really excited that we're getting some more character depth for someone like him, because I think he's going to be pretty prevalent throughout the rest of the show, because he's a big character.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to go away, but I do think this is a good spot for him to kind of take a backseat for the rest of the season, as we're getting a bunch of storylines. Yeah, and we do kind of need to focus on the main ones.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this was a perfect way to deal with him. Obviously he's a very strong hero, so he does need to be a part of, the Guardians, but he doesn't need to be the leader. I think obviously them pushing Mark to be that a little bit, we saw it. It was a cool dynamic to see him kind of take control, because he is the strongest out of the crew. He is probably the most level-headed in a sense, even though he's still got a lot of growing to do. He is really trying to be the best person that he can be for everybody. So we dive into that a little bit more with this dynamic of him and Amber. You touched on it a little bit. There starts to be some cracks in their relationship, which we all saw that coming, because he's always having to leave. She's always by herself. But he still really is upset with the fact that, not that necessarily she's upset about it, but the fact that he's not there for her, which I think just speaks more volumes to the character they're getting with Mark, is he is really trying to be a hero for everybody. So what did you think about that dynamic? I know you said that you liked it because you've been enjoying their, couple, their relationship status. What did you think about that as a growing point for both him and Amber?
I think it's good. And I do want to preface, I don't like them as a couple.
Yes. You just like the idea. Like, I get what you're saying.
I like that it's grounded. It is giving it a little bit relatable, and also it's not unrealistic. Yeah, that relationship would be incredibly challenging. It would be hard for anyone. And they're not just brushing it off as like, oh, like this is super easy on Amber. Like, she does have her own issues, and there's a reason you're in a relationship. It's not so that you can just, somebody can just be around half the time. It's no, you want somebody to depend on. You want somebody there. No matter how great they are, if they're not present, that relationship doesn't matter. So, I think that's a really good aspect of the show, is kind of just showing that no matter how good you are or what you're doing, if you're neglecting the people around you, that's not going to be good enough for anyone. So I thought that was really good.
Well, and it goes back to what you said about Duplicate and Immortal. They're not relatable. Mark and Amber cannot relate because they're both two completely different humans. I mean, one of them is here trying to save the world every single day. The other one's just trying to get through college. And it is that same thing, like you said, they're not being able to relate to the same thing. And you kind of hear Amber tell Eve that, you understand more what he's going through. And I think that's kind of hinting at where this is all going. I think the cracks are showing. Obviously, they don't both feel like they can be there for each other and, satisfy each other's needs. Amber can't do can't be what Mark needs her to be because she's just not a superhero. She will never really understand what he's going through. And the same thing with Mark. He'll really never understand the volume of things that Amber is going through because she's just trying to get through college. She doesn't have the weight of all these other things on her. And that's not to say the stuff that she's struggling with isn't valid. It's just so completely different circumstances that you'll really never be able to understand what the other is going through.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a challenge. That's always going to be a challenge. And I do hope that they don't drag this out for the entirety of the season. I hope they can give. And I mean, we only have 2 episodes left, which is insane.
It is.
But I do kind of hope they kind of wrap that up next episode, so that that's not really lingering over Mark and kind of like I said in Baldur's Gate, like the relationship isn't always needed. Like Mark doesn't have to have a love interest for this to be a good show. So it would be okay for him to not immediately go to Eve. Like, hey, you can just be single and fight the galaxy and worry about yourself and your mom and Oliver, and that's going to be fine. So I actually would I don't want him to jump straight to Eve. I don't know if that's in the comics. Clearly, if you've read it,
they're probably screaming at the screen right now.
I always think it's hilarious when we talk projections of something that has source material, but
hey, we're not the only people that do it. There's other people out there just like us. So,
so that is how I hope they take the show. But I'm a little. If I had to hedge my bets, I would hedge probably 60% that they'll probably try to force Adam, Eve, and Mark quickly, and 40% that they don't.
Yeah, I think they should keep showing, these scenes where they see each other and they're instantly hugging and they're really talking on like a different level. Not really as just friends. You can almost tell that they're getting to that point. But moving along from all the relationship advice, one of my favorite parts of the show is we finally got to see a little bit of what Nolan, Omni-Man, was telling Mark about read my books. And that for me was my favorite part of this episode. And we're starting to see Mark. He's like, man, he's mad at his mom a little bit because she got rid of the books. And he's like, I need those books. And now he doesn't know where to get them. So he goes and talks to his good friend Art, who obviously is the one that makes all their suits. And he goes there at first with just needing some relationship advice. So they sit down. They kind of have Art kind of is that fatherly figure for Mark that he doesn't really have right now. But then at the end of that, he's like, yeah, I need to, my dad told me to read his books. And Art's like, well, I have them all. He actually gave them to me as a tip one time because he was so cheap. So Mark takes them home and he starts flipping through them. And the whole time he's flipping through them, I'm like, all right, what is he getting at? Why did Omni-Man tell him to read his books? And I couldn't figure it out at first. And I didn't figure it out until the very end of the episode when Alan makes his grand appearance. I absolutely love that scene. Real quick, we'll touch on Alan and Omni-Man having the conversation. I thought it was hilarious whenever Alan was talking to Omni-Man like through his head, and he gets Invincible finally gets up there and he's like, hey, I can't talk to you both at the same time, so can you tell him what I'm telling you? And Alan's just telling him, some of the truth, but he's also throwing some other little flavor in there, which I thought was awesome. But another sign that we see Immortal just kind of listen to Invincible and he just heads back home. So they're really trying to lay that groundwork. But anyways, they have their talk and they catch up. And he's like, well, I think that these books are actually ways that my dad has found out that these are the things that Viltrumites are weak to. These are the things they're susceptible to. I really, really love that storyline, and I love the characters and stuff that we could get from that. What did you think about that idea of these books kind of potentially being a way of showing some of the Viltrumites' weaknesses?
We kind of speculated at the mid-season finale what was kind of in there. We said maybe like this is kind of what we said. We said, hey, maybe he had kids with other people, and maybe that was a way, or maybe that he had a way that he was weak, and that's really cool that we're getting to see that these were actually accounts that he did, and that was awesome. It was really cool to kind of see the what was the rider called?
Space. Well, Omni-Man calls him Space Rider, and Alan said, well, he's a legend, but we don't know if he's real, and his name's Space Racer.
Yeah, Space Racer, dude. When I saw it when that shot went through all of those aliens, and then it hit the sun and evaporated that. I was like, oh dang, okay, that's sick. So we're definitely going to up the power scale.
Yes.
This is some different level stuff. And I'm curious. I don't think we're gonna get any of that this season anymore.
I don't think so either.
We only got 2 episodes left. We still have Portal Dude to deal with.
Yeah, we'll get to him.
And but yeah, the books were pretty cool. Didn't do too much diving into them, but we got two good stories to go off of, and we know he wrote a bunch more. So that's pretty exciting. To know that there is ways that Viltrumites can be killed or weakened out there. So we're definitely going to see all of that culmination at some point in this series.
Well, it just goes to show how important character design is, because I'm already ready for a standalone series about Space Racer. I thought he was so cool. I was like, I just want to know more about this guy. But yeah, I'm really excited for that whole process of things that we have going on. Things are really starting to take shape. Before we get to Portal Man, which I think his name is what's his name? Something Strong Sim Levy, I think is what his name was. Something like that. I need to remember these names better.
Angstrom
Levy.
Levy.
Yeah. Levy. We do get a little bit more insight on what's going on with Omni-Man, and we see that he is definitely in the prison that Alan did speak of. He said, you know what, I'll ask around out there to see if Omni-Man has been killed, and he's like, it's not like the Viltrumites to execute their kind. They don't do that type of thing. And then we find out that, they don't execute their kind if they're not at 100% strength to give them a fair chance of, surviving the execution. So we do get that little bit of that scene where Omni-Man is in the prison that Alan told Invincible about. And we see that he is literally not cooperating at all with the general of the Viltrumites. He is ignoring him. He is not answering him. He doesn't care what they do to him. He is locked in. And we see at the very end, the general picks him up by the throat, throws him against the wall, and he hits the ground, and we see him, let out a little bit of a punch on the ground, and he dents the ground to just kind of show that Omni-Man still got it. I think that's going to be a really fun scene to go with. Do you think that is something that we do get to see this season, or do you think that's going to be another thing that we don't get to see? Do you think that's the end of Omni-Man for this season, or do you see him being another big role before these last 2 episodes are over?
Yeah, we just don't have much content. Content. We don't have much time to get through all this content. So my guess is that we do not see that this season. I would say we'll see that at the start of season 3, but I would say that we're going to finish up here on Earth with Mark. We know for a fact that the Viltrumite has to come check on his work. Yeah. We saw that in the trailer, so we are going to get one of the Viltrumites coming our way with Mark, and I would assume that's the end, the finale.
Yeah, I would think so too.
So I'm going to guess that's not going to happen this season, and that we're going to just finish with that. So we'll probably see some Angstrom Levy next episode, and then we'll probably see the Viltrumite come to check up on him next episode, and hopefully we get to see some Alan. I know you're a huge fan of Alan, and hopefully we get to see that side of it, because really that is the most interesting side of the story.
Yes.
The stuff on Earth is cool. Mark dealing with all of his stuff is awesome. I love the character development. However, the biggest thing I care about is what he's doing globally. So the more we get of that, the better for me.
Well, that is, the main storyline. And one thing this show does so well is it does a really good job of balancing all these storylines, because I don't feel like, obviously there's some filler, there's some character development scenes, but they all still feel very important. It doesn't feel like they're just doing them for the sake of doing them to, take up some of the time on screen to, get that episode to its 50-minute mark or whatever. It actually is important and it holds weight, but they still do a really good job of showing what the main storyline is. And obviously Alan is a really big part of what's going on, as we're about to see this, I guess we could call it this global war between the Viltrumites and probably everybody else, because the Viltrumites kind of seem to be the superior kind out there, just enslaving planets and doing whatever they want. So I'm really excited to follow that storyline. I'm right there with you. I think it's the best storyline. But we touched on just a little bit. We got to see Angstrom Levy for the first time in a while. He's getting fitted for a new suit, and then we see him start to portal through some places. And at the very end, he says, all right, I'm back home. Now, I'm assuming that's probably back to our Earth, our normal Earth, not one of these variant universes out there. So I'm excited to see what happens there. Now, do you think that is our Earth, or do you think he is on one of these other multiverse planets?
I can't remember in his appearance where he's from. I can't remember if it was this Earth or another Earth, but I would say he's back to this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Would be my guess. Like,
yeah, so
Mark's
I'm excited.
planet.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what happens there. I think you're spot on with what we're going to get. I think the last episode will probably end with the Viltrumites coming to check in on Mark. I think this next episode will touch a little bit more on what Angstrom Levy's got going on. I think he's a really interesting storyline. And, we talk about the Viltrumite War being the big picture. This is almost an even bigger picture if you really think about just importance to a world. This guy's able to go through time. He's able to teleport to all these universes. It's really going to be interesting to see how they build up on that for the future of the show.
Yeah, and I like one of the things is that he can't move through space, only through dimensions.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really interesting. Mark's like he's going to have to plan a bunch to defeat Mark. It's not like he's just going to be able to like that's a super powerful ability, but it's not super powerful for him. Outside of what he can go plan or do or think. So I think that's one of the reasons we haven't really seen him as the overall threat yet, is because he's going to be that planner. He has to put those things together. He has to have a trap. He has to have everything going his way, and he can't just portal to wherever he needs to get what he needs to get. So he can get to the planet or the universe or the alternate dimension, whatever we're talking about. But he can't necessarily fly there. So like if what he needs to defeat Mark is on a different planet, he can't get there. So I think that's one of the reasons we haven't seen it yet, is because he's definitely going to have to create that plan and put that together, and they'll probably spend a lot of time showing that.
Yeah, I think so too. And we still have to see Evil Mark. He's still out there. I think he's going to play a big instrumental role in Angstrom Levy's overall story. I could really see him trying to recruit Evil Mark to come fight Good Mark. I think that'll be a really interesting fight. This mirror match of who is going to be stronger and who's going to prevail. So I'm excited for that storyline. Lots to talk about, but overall, I think this season just continues to get even better. I'm really excited for this next episode, but do you have anything else on the Invincible side that you wanted to touch on before we moved over to some Star Wars news?
I honestly think that's it. I'm really excited for the wrap up of this season. I'm just really sad that we only have 2 episodes left.
I know. It's just like we waited all this time to finally get here, and in the short span of a month, it's gone again. So, we'll enjoy it while we can, but it's going to be a long, I'm sure it's going to be another 7 or 8 months. Hopefully that's the link that we have here, and it's not another year-long wait or more than a year. I'm really hoping we do get season 3 here in 2024. However, we're going to move on to something that we know we're not getting another season of, and that is Star Wars The Bad Batch. Now, are you fully caught up on the Bad Batch story right now?
I am. I have watched all 8 episodes of season 3.
So I know that's not something that we have been talking about every single week, which we've been trying to do a better job of, not really being a breakdown channel, but more just talking about, overall stuff that's going on. Now there's going to be some stuff that we like to break down because we just love Invincible so darn much, but the Bad Batch has been really great this season, in my opinion. What are your thoughts overall on the story that they're going with, now that you're caught up and you've seen everything? Do you like this direction of the Bad Batch so far?
So, my feelings about retconning the garbage, which a bunch of this season is. A lot of this is M count. We know that's midichlorian count.
Yep.
We know that Echo apparently has the ability to clone. I don't know if she has it. If she has midichlorians, or if she just has the ability to have a successful cloning with midichlorians.
Yeah.
My guess is that she has midichlorians.
I would agree.
So that's going to be super interesting to see if she does use the Force, where she is at in the future. It's been exciting. It's not been season 7 of Clone Wars good.
No.
Um,
Or season 2 of Rebels.
Yeah, it's just too slow. Um, and that's not a terrible problem all the time. However, if this is your final season, you got to wrap up everything. And so even this last episode, spoiler alert for episode 8, but just going on a side mission with Finnick, like that to me doesn't scream great final Star Wars content. Now that's fine for a Clone Wars episode, but I feel like we're trying to get past the Clone Wars to better content, better stories. And the Clone Wars season 7 did that, where like everything was purposeful. Yeah. It seemed like
high stakes.
And also I just don't care about Finnick. Finnick, like she showed, like the only time I knew her was from The Mandalorian, and then from Boba Fett, and she's fine, but I don't really care about her. So to see her pop up in this really wasn't like, great. Like I'm still waiting for Asajj. Like where's she at? Like she was teased in the trailer. Is that who she called?
Yeah.
You think that's who she called?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of things you're saying. I do think that's who she was talking to there at the end. I think it makes the most sense. Overall, I think a lot of the feelings you're having about the show are very valid, and I kind of do feel similarly as this being the last season. And, it seems like that, I talked about it last week, that idea that there's potentially going to be another, I'm not going to say a season 4 because it's obviously not season 4, but really the continuation of the story with, a show centered around Rex, Echo, and those guys and what they're doing, overall. But it feels like that needs to be saved for that. It feels like they're almost using this as like a tie into that. Correct. And I feel like they just need to go ahead and just get this story wrapped up. You can do that other show. That's fine. I still want to know more about that war. I still want to see, the clones and all that stuff because I really enjoy them. But that doesn't need to be, they don't need to use this season as, a pilot almost for that. I don't need to be convinced to watch that. I'm going to watch that anyway, and I think most of the people that are watching The Bad Batch are going to. So this does not need to end on a cliffhanger. This does need to wrap up. So I'm interested to see how they're going to do it because I agree with you. I don't think that we needed an episode dedicated to them going on a mission and kind of gaining Finnick's trust and her gaining their trust and la-di-da-di-da. That could have been a scene, they go into the bar, she says, well, you need to do something for me. And let's just skip to the end of that mission. We don't need to watch them do it all. Let's just show that they did it, and then let's continue on with the story. I don't need to see it happening. It's kind of just like, okay, they did what she wanted to do. Now she's going to go get them the information, and we go from there. So I do feel like there's a lot of that does need to quit happening. I don't need to see all these little missions that they're going on. We just need the real hard-hitting story, driving missions. And this just wasn't that. And I feel like that's been a lot of this season. Overall, I feel like the majority of this season has probably been a little bit more filler than story. So I'm hoping that they really end strong, and I think they will. I think the last season kind of indicated that they know how to wrap up a show and get you excited, but there's still a lot we haven't seen. Like you said, we haven't seen Asajj yet. I do think she is who Finnick was contacting there at the end. And I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know if maybe Asajj is kind of working for the Empire. I know she doesn't really agree with him because she, got kind of betrayed by the Sith, but I also don't know that she's just really going to be a good person. That's not really ever been her rap. She kind of does stuff for her personal gain. So I'm interested to see how they, continue with that storyline. But I agree with everything you said. I feel like they really need to start getting some actual story going rather than just this filler.
And that's not to say that the show is bad. It's been good. I've enjoyed it. But I do just feel like they're leaving a bunch on the table. Like this isn't even competing for top Star Wars animated at this point. Like I don't think they can
I'm not going to go that far because you can end the season real strong, and they still have quite a few episodes left. I think we got 6 more episodes, and that's a lot. So I believe it's 14 episodes.
9 episodes.
So even more. So they could still end really strong. That's plenty of time to really turn a season around. They just need to get on it.
And honestly, I wouldn't really feel this way if like you said, the most of the show hasn't been filler, but it kind of just feels like we're going in circles and not going anywhere. Yeah, we're going back to the same places we were in season 2, seeing things so it's kind of like, all right, I'm with you. There was I was watching a breakdown of Dune, some of just like the story decisions that they made that was super good, and one of that was like, just the transporting from the House Atreides to Arrakis, and how they just showed the portal entry and the portal end, like that was the transition, and they were like, traditionally you don't show the car drive, like
Yeah.
you show the people getting in the car and then you show them arrive at where they're at. Like you don't want to show them on the trip. And so I think that's kind of lost in today. Is we spend a lot of time on the trip without actually getting to the destination. So that was a word salad to say. Stop the filler, but
I get what you're saying, and that's exactly what this show seems to do. And I'm not going to fault them for that, because historically that's what animated Star Wars is. There's a lot of filler, and it's not to say this filler isn't bad. Sometimes it's really fun. I thought the episode that we just got was a fun episode. I thought it was cool. I like to see, Hunter and Wrecker working in that dynamic. I think Fennec's an okay character. I'm kind of like you. I don't really think she's, a big enough name. Now, if they were working for Cad Bane, I probably would have really enjoyed the show a lot more. But obviously, we know they're not on the best of terms. But we know he should be showing back up at some point. So there's a lot of things coming that I think are really going to push the show forward. I'm definitely excited to see what comes of that. I'm obviously Asajj has got to be close. I don't want them to do what Echo did. I really hope she's not just a scene and that's all we get of her. I feel like she really does need to be a prominent character for the rest of this season. Because if you're going to bring her back, like, they did, historically, a lot of people thought she was dead. So you're showing us her that she is actually still alive and she's still out there doing stuff. She needs to have a purpose and not just be something that they use just to get clicks on a trailer. And I'm really hoping that's not the case. We see that with Echo. That was exactly what Daredevil was used for, is just to get clicks and some interest on a trailer. So I'm hoping that's not the case. However, I agree. I think they need to start pushing this show forward. But that's not to say I haven't enjoyed it. But moving on a little bit from the Bad Batch, we did get the Acolyte trailer. Now, I thought it was a really cool trailer. I'm very excited that we're really getting to see lightsabers and stuff on the screen again. And it seems like this show is really going to be showing off some Jedi and some Sith stuff. And that's something I'm really excited for. But what did you think of the trailer overall?
I thought it looked really good. Really intriguing. Visually, it looks great.
Yeah.
But trailers can lie to you. And so
yeah. Oh, can they?
you just talked about Echo.
Yep.
Boy. So I don't know. I'm starting to make sure that we really get some good stories. Now, this is exactly, you talked about it last week. I had the complaint that we don't get new Star Wars. We're stuck in this era that has been beat to death at this point. And I want some new stuff. And so this is new stuff. It looks pretty good. I'm just a little worried with this not being written when Dave Filoni was at the helm. Yeah. And shot. So I'm a little leery of it. I'm not bought in completely. I thought it looked good, but I have a bunch of reservations just because I know what Disney does with Star Wars, and I know the agendas they try to push, and I'm just really hoping that this doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and it's really sad that we've gotten to a point where I feel like this with Star Wars, we're always holding our breath because we really can't believe anything that they're showing us, because you never know what's actually going to be in the finished product. But as far as trailers go, obviously, like you said, we can be fooled. We are fooled a lot when it comes to trailers because, trailers nowadays are just trying to farm impressions, right? They're just trying their best to get as many views and stuff as possible, trying to build hype, which obviously that's what a trailer's for. So I'm not going to fault them for that. But we are tricked a lot of the time. But as far as trailers go, I thought this looked really fun. Like I said, I love seeing the lightsabers on the screen. The little bit of fighting that we got looked pretty well choreographed, which is really a good sign, because a lot of Star Wars fighting that we've gotten recently, sometimes it's not very well choreographed. It's just kind of two people just throwing haymakers at each other with, a dark saber or something like that. So I'm excited that we're actually getting some more Jedi feeling choreography, it felt like, with how they were fighting, and more fluid movements and those type of things. But overall, I did enjoy the trailer. Like you said, there's some things we need to be careful about. We talk about retconning things with the Bad Batch. This show is going to have to be really, really careful about retconning stuff because, episode 1, The Phantom Menace talks about, we haven't seen Sith in, 1,000 years. This does not take place that long ago. I mean, it is like, I think 200 years or something like that before The Phantom Menace. It's something like that. It's not 1,000 though. So they do need to be really careful about, giving us Sith and, leaving that story open-ended. And I've seen some debate about, well, if we do get Sith, it's not necessarily a bad thing because they could just kill the Jedi that see them. And then, the Jedi aren't exposed to the Sith. Or I've seen a lot of people say, well, the Jedi didn't even believe Qui-Gon when he's literally fought one out in the desert and there were eyewitnesses. So there are some things that they need to still be careful of, but they do kind of have a little bit of things they can work around. However, I'm hoping they just give us a good story. But I'm really excited to see where this story goes overall, because I think it's got a really good potential and it's a really cool era that we've really never got to see in any sort of, form like that.
Now you're on the Star Wars future train just a little bit more than me. What else do we have coming up? I know we have Andor season 2 on the horizon. Not super close. I know that Ahsoka got greenlit for a second season. We have Grogu and the Mandalorian.
Which that's a ways away because we're still supposed to be getting another season of the Mandalorian before the movie. So we still got some time for that one. The next big show, other than the Andor and stuff like that, we are supposed to still be getting the Skeleton Crew, which is another really cool one that I think sounds good. And then I've also heard some more rumors that I'm slipping right now. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it was that like the Republic Squadron or something like that. The New Republic show,
Squads.
Something like that. There was like a show that actually it was kind of canceled. And then it kind of just recently resurfaced that no, they are still working on it just very slowly. But other than that, it's really the Skeleton Crew. And Andor is the big one that it hasn't been confirmed for the end of this year. And a lot of people think it did get postponed into next year because originally it was supposed to be end of 2024, but we haven't heard really much about it. So a lot of people think that one might have got postponed to 2025, but that's kind of the slate right now we're working with. We're finishing up the Bad Batch. We will have the Acolyte. And then Andor and the Skeleton Crew at some point are coming up.
Okay. So which ones out of those is your most anticipated?
Oh, Andor, 100%. It's just the best Star Wars show. I'm excited to see where they continue with that story. I feel like that season ended up really open-ended with, them escaping and all that stuff, and we're still trying to figure out a lot of what's going on there. We're starting to see the rebellion kind of start to take place, which is really fun and interesting. We got to see the very last scene of the show was the Death Star being built, which I thought was really cool. So I'm excited for that one. And I think it's the best Star Wars show, so it's hard not to be excited for it.
All right. I would have to agree. I love Andor, and I really hope they don't mess it up, man. And like you said, man, I hate that I feel that way. Like, it feels like we literally are on the verge of everything just going to be bad.
Yep. It's so sad. It is such a sad reality. But, we'll get through it. We're obviously going to watch it. We're going to put ourselves through it, whether it's good or bad. I mean, you put yourself through Avatar, so I will never doubt your ability to finish a show.
Oh man, I got some stupidity in me.
I know before we sign off.
I got a
whole lot more.
I got one more thing to talk after.
Okay, let's hear it.
No, go ahead. Your thing.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know you're rewatching through the last Airbender animated show. Are you still working your way through it? Are you still enjoying it?
Oh yeah, we finished book 1. Man, I love Avatar so much. The animated series. Literally every time I watch it, it just drops the live action so much worse.
Which is so sad because that's not what the live action was supposed to do. But
it's like, man, I'm pretty much giving it like a 2 out of 10 now, just with how bad the adaptation was, because the source material was so great. And it's like, oof, missed it, bad miss.
Well, lucky for you, you're going to get 2 more seasons at least of the anime or the live action show.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Well, here's the reality I've been thinking about recently. You know how funny it's going to be, should be 4 books, right? We should get 4 seasons total. How hilarious would it be if they do get these next 2 seasons and then they just never finish it? I could totally see that being a reality with this show.
No, there's only 3. There's only 3.
Oh, is there only 3? Okay.
Yeah, because he already knows air. So it's book water, earth, and then fire are the books.
That's right. But you'll get to see the live action wrapped up at least.
That's right.
So I bet you're so excited for that.
I'm pretty amped, man. I can't wait. I can't wait for Katara to learn earthbending and be her own master then too.
Yeah.
Because Aang's not going to learn any of the elements.
He don't need to.
No, he doesn't.
He just needs to know air. Avatar. That's all.
That's right. Yeah. But the new thing is I actually got invited for the first time to the theaters by someone to watch Godzilla X Kong on Saturday. Okay. So I am committing to watch all of the Godzillas this week, and I'm going on Saturday to watch the Godzilla X Kong. So if you want to join this journey,
man,
hop on the board.
So I'm not actually, that doesn't sound like a terrible thing to me because I love Godzilla. I think he is just such a cool character. I'm actually kind of reading through a manga right now that I just picked up. It's called Kaiju number 8, and it's kind of based off of that kind of world of, these monsters like that. And so I love that type of stuff. So I was probably going to see it anyway. I had kind of told myself I wasn't going to go to the movies for it. I was just going to wait till eventually it made it to streaming because it's not something I feel like I really want to go see that bad. But overall, I love Godzilla as a whole. So I'm excited to see and listen to your, story as you get through all the movies because I don't think they're bad movies. They're not good. They're fun.
Is it 20? Well, you know how I feel about what is it? Fast and Furious. I don't hate Fast and Furious, but you know how I feel about it.
Yeah, you might not enjoy these fun movies, but nonetheless, I'm excited to hear your take on them once you finish.
I watched the 2014 Aaron Taylor, and I enjoyed that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember being really mad that I only got to see a tiny bit of Godzilla. Yeah, I'm looking back at my rating of it. I gave it a 6.
Okay.
So 6 being I enjoyed it, but I'd never watch it again.
Well, here's the thing. Godzilla is one of those characters that he does deserve so much more screen time. He never gets it though, because they really do try to do that thing of he is Godzilla, right? He's not on the screen all the time. They kind of give that to Kong. You see a lot of Kong in these movies, and every single one of them, he's kind of, I hesitate to use the word main character.
I gotta watch Kong School Island too.
Yeah, you'll have to watch those ones as well. If you really want to get the full Monsterverse experience.
I gotta do the journey. So I guess that's one every night.
Yeah,
and I'm going to see Steph Curry for the first time in live action on Wednesday. So
man, you got a good week lined up.
I got a good week lined up, man. So
are you heading to Orlando?
Yeah, Orlando. We're gonna get to see Paulo Banchero and Steph Curry go at it. So that's gonna be awesome.
Well, that's awesome. It's something we've never talked about on the podcast, but we're both big basketball fans. I've watched almost every single Knicks game this year. They're playing the Pistons tonight, and I watched the first quarter, and we were up by 25 at the end of it, so I felt comfortable leaving that one. But knowing the Knicks, they might have fumbled it, and they'll make it a close game.
Hey, Deuce McBride, man.
Oh, dude. Love him. I made a tweet before I got on here after that first quarter. He had an awesome play. We're talking about basketball now, and we'll wrap up after this, guys.
Hey,
but
it's our podcast.
An awesome play where he threw it off the back of the defender on the inbounds and laid it in. And I was like, he's going to be a superstar. I think he plays defense. He hits the 3 ball. I mean, Tom Thibodeau is wearing him out every game. I mean, he's played like 46 to 48 minutes for the last 4 games. I think out of those last 4, he's played 2 full games. So we're getting our money's worth with him, but man, he's awesome. Absolutely love watching him play. So I can't wait. You'll have to let us know how much you enjoy. I've not ever got to see Steph in person, so that's going to be really cool. I mean, he's an all-time great already, and he's still writing his story. So that's going to be really cool. So I'm excited for you to go. Let me know how it is.
I've seen LeBron, Kobe, Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, Kyrie set the bench the game I went. He was hurt. Derrick Rose. So I've seen a bunch of the greats from my era. Clearly, I wasn't able to see a bunch of past. But
come on, you didn't see Bill Russell play?
I didn't see Bill Russell play. I missed out on Larry Legend and Magic. But so I felt like I had to see the greatest shooter of all time.
That's gonna be awesome.
So really excited.
But sounds like you got a busy week. You're going to have to fit in these Monsterverse movies into there. So I'm excited to hear your take on the basketball game and those Monsterverse movies. But guys, that is going to do it for this episode of the Weekly Fix. As always, we always put it down in the description. Make sure to reach out to us if there's something you want us to talk about, if there's something you're sick of hearing us talk about. And if you're sick of hearing us talk about Invincible, I hate to break it to you, we're probably going to keep talking about it. But we might take into consideration the length of how long we talk about it. But make sure to go and reach out to us if you guys have any questions about anything you guys are watching, or you're like, hey, I watched this show that I really like, I think you guys might enjoy this. Let us know. We are always open to that type of thing. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Weekly Fix. Again, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be with you in the next week.